What's going on, my beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of the Hustle Coast podcast. Today, we have an absolutely phenomenal guest. He is an international DJ and music producer, recording and mixing engineer, and the CEO of Knoise Knation, a project management and marketing company. I give you Tito Knoise.
Thank you for having me, man. It's been a long time coming, man.
It really has, man. It really has. Me and you have known each other now for a couple years.
Yeah, man. We actually met right when I was graduating Full Sail.
Right when you're graduating from Full Sail, man. That's crazy, man. It's been some years now, man. I remember we worked on some things together, and we made some fire together, man. And for sure. So we're gonna get into all of that today. Absolutely.
Absolutely, man. Definitely appreciate it. And as I mentioned, man, humbled to even get the approach, brother. So thank you.
100%, man. I thank you again for coming on the show. So when I do my interviews, I always like to start from the very beginning, man. I always like to start at that origin story. So for you, where were you born? What was your childhood like coming up? All that.
All right. So origin stories. So you see the way that babies are made, my mama. No, so but I was born in the Dominican Republic. My father is from the capital, Santo Domingo. My mom is from the country, San Francisco. So it's definitely a mixture. I moved to New York when I was 11, and originally I moved to New York because I was trying to get a surgery because I was born with a club foot. So that was the idea to move to the States.
Mm.
And growing up in New York, it's a melting pot, right? So it created a plethora of different flavors and just confusions because if you hear it's depending on what day of the week speak with me, you can hear a twain from New York, you can hear a super thick accent. Sometimes you don't hear an accent, so I gotta confuse the enemy sometimes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. So you were born in the Dominican Republic. Your first couple years, you were raised there, and then you said about age 11, you moved to New York.
Yes, when I was 11, I moved to New York. Yeah,
Nice. And was it just you and your parents? Did you have siblings?
yeah, my little sister and I. So when in the Dominican Republic, for those that may not know, currently, you in order for you to get a visa, there's a pretty lengthy process. So my mother came out here with the intention of getting surgery for me. So she did the whole 5 year situation. So do the math. I got here when I was 11, 5 years. You know what I mean? So eh, it's it was definitely a bit of a tough process because you're 5. My little sister's 3, and growing up on a whole different side of the world. But it was my sister and I, and we just came to New York, and since then I've been kind of like integrated into this American dream.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, 100%, man. Do you still have memories like being a little kid in the Dominican Republic?
Bro, memories, that is literally the source of my happiness, bro.
Nice.
I when I was a kid, I was so because of the way that I was raised, my grandmother, my aunt, my cousins, so 6 months between one house and the other, we used to split the time. So I grew up in a predominantly um, women-driven environment. So me at that time having a club foot, I was always given the extra little help, but I didn't need it because I was always all out and about on my own. So when I say that that's my happy place, I remember literally spending the entire days just out in the woods. We had like cacao trees, orange. I mean, it's a farm, so that is my happy moment, man. And so I do remember it. I literally I draw a lot of happiness from there. And it's vivid, man. I remember things that I shouldn't remember.
Right, for sure. That's crazy, man. That's awesome. And then do you also so you moved to New York. Obviously you're growing up over there. You went to middle school over there and high school over there or
Yeah, I actually I went to middle school in Brooklyn. The sixth grade I kind of came in April of '99, and then the rest of the of high school I I did in the Bronx, and I did 1 year prior to that in the Bronx. This is when I moved to middle school there, so it definitely predominantly most of my studies have been in the Bronx, even though I've lived pretty much in all five boroughs, man.
Yeah, for sure. And how is New York? You know, now you've been in Florida for a while, which we're gonna get to, but how would you what do you say about New York?
I mean, my experience, I'm very grateful because again, growing up in a place that because you're disabled, right? You're given there's all this extra love. You don't really have a lot of opportunities to be hit with the real, you know?
Right.
And New York was that. I mean, lucky for me, I was born in a country that there is no such thing as like bullying. You know what I mean? So when these kids try to, call me, cojito, which means like, someone that kind of like limps or whatever, I'm like, cool, that's what they used to call me where I'm from. So what's up?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I
Nice.
mean? So that definitely helped to the process. Obviously, not speaking the language didn't help,
Right.
with the teasing and all this stuff, but it definitely New York has added a lot of flavor and character. That's what I would call it.
Nice. For sure. And I hear too, like a lot of people that lived in New York, obviously they always talk about like the hustle and bustle. Like, do you feel like you got any of your hustle from there?
Uh, yeah, man. I mean, I so summer of 2004, I remember this. Hot as hell. Um, Lean Back was just getting on. I'm talking about Fat Joe got the city on fire.
Nice.
Um, that was the year that I was graduating high school,
Mm,
and that was the same year that I became homeless. So my mom, my sister, and I are in the summer of 2004, literally in the streets.
uh-oh.
I'm 15 at this point, 14, 15. So the the character building aspect of it and the hustle and bustle like that is that it was that was instilled
Right.
by New York City. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely grateful for that.
Yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%. So you're growing up in New York, you go to middle school, you go to high school, and then you graduate in high school from New York, right? So then from there, do you immediately come to Florida and go to Full Sail, or
N-
how was that transition?
Nah, man, it's a lot of summers passed before then.
Okay.
So when I- so I originally went to college in New York.
Mm.
So I graduated, went to NYIT. Funny enough, I got a scholarship because
Hey.
I told my story, like
Right,
the whole, I mean, being homeless and having all this craziness kind of helped.
right.
Um, so I got a scholarship. I did a year and a half in NYIT. Then my sister moved out here. At that time, she was 15 and pregnant,
Mm,
and I pretty much dropped everything and came out here to help out. So that was in 2007,
mm,
and I stayed here for a couple of years. I was working, your regular corporate jobs, Bank of America, the whole nine. And that was the year that I was gonna have in 2009 was the year that I was gonna have the my start as a DJ. But the way
mm.
that it started, it wasn't because I was born, with like a vinyl under my arm with this, head. Nah, I mean, I always liked music, being in the Dominican environment, there's always music around, I remember always having music around, but never on some professional stuff. But I
Right.
was having surgery, and I know that, when I had my initial amputation, I was out for like almost a year.
Mm.
So I decided that I was going to try to get into something that I could learn while I'm there and not get bored. And I had a bunch of music. I've always collected music, always, always. Man, I'm talking about the Sony yellow Walkman with the whole nine. Um, and that's when I decided to go get my first Serato SL box, SL1 box,
Yep.
with my friend uh, Eka at that time, and that's how the introduction to it happened. You know what I mean? So it was
Okay.
just that. Then fast forward 7 months later, I'm actually, you know, trying to figure out this whole thing, visiting, I don't know what I was doing. My boy Eka has been now in the industry for a while. As far as like the clubs, the parties, he was the guy, in the world the parties were, and he also is like he's actually he can play instruments and stuff. You know what I mean? Very, very, very talented individual.
Nice.
And we found Gio Breton at a AM station that he was dropping a demo, and we were dropping a demo.
Mm.
And now, mind you, Gio's been at that time was doing it for a minute. You know what I mean? He was from New York, the whole nine. We were just starting, so he kind of connected. He gave us a piece of advice there, which was, hey, get this software before if you want to take this serious. That's when we went and got Serato and others nine. And that's how the story started with the whole DJ. And I do have to give credit because Gio Breton was the first person who actually gave me a shot and an opportunity to DJ at a venue publicly without me knowing anything. So, shout outs to
Hey,
that
big shout
guy.
out to Gio Bertone. I know Gio Bertone. Gio Bertone is the man. At some point, I would also love to get him on the podcast as
Oh
well,
man,
but that's sick, man.
definitely,
Yeah,
definitely, man. He
yeah,
got
yeah.
he got a crazy story too, man.
Yeah.
So,
For
but
sure, man.
that's pretty much how we got started into the DJ side of it.
Okay, absolutely. So, do you still remember your very first? What is that story you're talking about with Gio? Was that your very first gig ever DJing?
Well, I cannot forget my very first gig DJing, like at a club. You know what I mean? I had done like helped out one of my best friends at that time. His name was Tony Yu. He was friends with actually there is a old older crowd of like house heads like Chicago, like Louis Vega, like that. He put me on to all the house music stuff. He's like a
Mm,
real house head,
nice.
but like deep house. And at that time there was a FM. There's still the public radio station in Tampa. They have a house program there for like 15 years, man. That guy,
Oh wow.
they were friends, and he started kind of like telling me about it. And he's like, I'm gonna do this event. If you want to come, check it out. He didn't have anything that we had today. He had the Denon CD players, like the ones that you insert the CDs.
Yeah,
So that's how I started the thing with the
man.
CDs.
Nice.
But fast forward into the tech side of it, that's when I got into the Serato part of it. Then I got into the clubs, and that's where Geo comes in. And at that time, I had not, I had probably like maybe one or two parties that I've done. 100% not paid, 100% not mine. I was just there. You know what I mean? I would just
Right.
show up.
Yeah.
Talk about
Nice.
the hustle, man. Half of it, honestly, I would say this, man. Like people will say that, showing up is half the battle.
Mhm.
I would tell you, man, that I think showing up should take a lot more than half because the amount of things that need to happen in a line for someone to show up, between you taking the decision and something not hitting you on the way.
Right. It's a
So,
lot.
it's a lot.
Yeah, for sure, man. All right, cool, cool. So that was your first, and what on your first gig? I know you said you can't forget it. Was it lit? Like, did it turn out being dope?
Oh man, I I wouldn't be able to forget my first gig even if I wanted to
Okay.
because, that was the day that I actually, and this is proof for those non-believers. So Gio is cousins with my wife,
Mm,
and he was bugging her for weeks and weeks to basically try to come to one of his nights. And she wasn't really trying to go all that. That day, Gio's sister showed up at her house and just took it out the house, brought it to the club. You know what I mean?
right.
And that first night was when I actually like seen my wife for the first time.
Oh wow.
So, you know, 15 years later, almost 16 years later, a lot of ups and downs, learning experiences, you name it, hustled. I mean, she is the reason why, I can honestly say that I have been able to do, the things that we're able to do. I mean, when you met me, right after Full Sail, you met me in a studio in the living room of her parents. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
like it's that's why that you cannot say Noise Nation without saying Monica in the same sentence as you put, Tito.
Yeah,
So
no,
yeah, I will
100%.
never be able to forget. And those that know that, your wife will not let you forget nothing.
That's a fact, man. That's a pretty epic story, and you definitely gotta thank Gio twice for that one, right? Cause
Twice, bro. But listen, check this out. So you know how crazy, things can be just based on a decision that could potentially change your entire narrative. That very same day, the owner of the spot came up to me and was like, "Hey, people like what you're doing." He doesn't know that this is my first night. He obviously sees that I'm younger and he sees that I'm, newer. And he definitely knows that I'm newer because I hit the power button and shut off the whole music, by the way, in the middle of the thing. So
oh
like
my god.
they know that I'm new.
Yeah.
He came up to me and was like, "We want to give you the night and just have you take over the night
What?
because A, they don't want to pay Gio what Gio is charging them, and B, Gio has a New York style DJing, which back then Tampa wasn't up to date. Respectfully. You know what I mean? There was the cutting the music and the cuts and all this thing that the performance. They just wanted to listen to songs from the beginning to the end, and somebody just changed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I was doing. I was just a beginner.
Right.
But I went up to Gio and I was like, bro, like I don't know what's going on. I don't know this man other than the other time that I met him before. You know what I mean? And I'm like, listen, I just because of the way that I was raised, like even if I wanted to, I wouldn't be able to. And I told them I don't bite the hand that feed me. And although you're not technically paying me, this is gonna make me money. And I wouldn't do that. So this guy told me dot. I don't know what the situation is, just this is what it is. And to bring the whole, circle together, if I would have been POS and I would have been on this yeah, let me take this, like a lot of these dudes be on that type of time. Brother, I probably would have never been in a situation that I am now and been with my wife because she's not gonna be trying to be friends with the dude that just, jacked her cousin, you know what I mean, from a gig. So that one split second there was no thought. There was no thought process. There was no nothing. There was no like contemplating. It was, this is what it is. So, and I say this and I say this to say that it is very important for an artist, a business person, or just a human being to have that level of clarity and discernment because if you don't and you're too flexible anything can come in and influence you and make you question it. And even if you're not wanting to, you hear the little ego voice that tells you to do so, and you think that that's coming from God, and it's not. You know what
That's
I
a
mean?
fact.
So that definitely was a defining moment. And until this day, man, that's always when it comes down to making a decision that's questionable, it always brings me to that moment. You know what I mean? And if I
Yeah.
have to ask, should I do this? Is this gonna be? Oh, I don't do it.
Right. Right. No, man, that definitely speaks to, loyalty and the loyalty, you had at that time. And that's awesome, man. 100%. Yeah, because at the end of the day, you don't want to undercut somebody who not only gave you your first chance, but somebody that could potentially put you in bigger positions just for one small thing. So definitely, having that clear mind, being able to understand that and being able to, and even going back to where you said, being there for free in the very beginning. I was having this conversation with someone else the other night where sometimes working for free can get you in positions to make money. Now, you don't always have to work for free, but sometimes to get your foot in the door, it's the best way.
And even to the whole free situation, I believe in balance. You know what I mean? Because, for example, you mentioned the the idea of, hey, even if you later on, you might be able to utilize some of the resources of that person to be able, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
E- e- The even that being a little different than my reason, that's right. You know what I mean? Like that
Right.
doesn't make it wrong. And I tell
Right.
people all the time, I'm like, listen, especially when you're in the music industry. The industry is made by to be people to be used. That's the way that it's supposed to. The problem comes when someone is abusing you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you have something to add, great. If you know what I mean. So even that little that making those decisions because on a selfish perspective,
Yeah.
as long as you can sleep at night, and that's just my theory.
Yeah. Agreed.
There are things, just like in engineering and, producing, right? You know that it's art is subjective, but there are just certain things that are kind of quote unquote industry standards or check mark. That if something sounds bad, you can, unless that's you're going for this super distorted sound, it's gonna sound bad, right?
Right. Right.
Same thing with what's right or wrong. It's perspective. There's just certain things that some people are able to do and some don't. I asked myself for a really long time, brother, man, and I mean, you met my wife and I, and you've seen a group of people that kind of like been around us, and you've seen the real live changes. You know what I mean? Like you can go back and look at everybody that we try to help,
Mhm.
and you can go back and see where they're at, and you can see that there are people that are no longer doing anything. There are
Mhm.
people that are still on the run. There are people that adjusted based on what their inner self. There are people that are in church because everybody has a purpose.
Right.
My problem was that I, and this was probably the biggest lesson that I've learned this year is that, brother, for a long time, I truly, truly, truly believed that the world was looking at itself through my eyes. Meaning, I never thought that someone could do me XYZ because I wasn't thinking that way. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I had to go through the experience and be like, oh, well, that didn't feel nice. Well, that's not gonna happen to me again. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So that's always been kind of like the struggle, right? Between the balance. So I think that balance is everything, brother. I mean, if you make the right choices and you can sleep at night, kudos to you.
That's a fact, man. 100%. So, yo, I want to switch gears here a little bit, and I want to know, so who are your biggest musical influences growing up?
So my I would say the earliest memories that I have of just listening to music, I can't even name you the first, like the name of the artist, but I can tell you that it was listening to merengue típico, like I live in the country, so there was country music from DR.
Okay.
And my
Nice.
my late cousin, God bless his soul, he was, the only male figure in the, in the mix for me.
Mm.
He was the person that, kind of like nicknamed me Tito. So the he was always blasting music. I used to wake up and I remember like listening to this like music. But one day, I got this little uh hand radio. So I'm in a country. There's no electricity where I'm at. There's none of this stuff. To watch TV, you have to plug in the car batteries and run it like just run it to the TV, and then those long poles with the antennas, that type
Oh,
of thing.
wow.
Yeah, you have to go with the clack 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 clack.
You were really working to hear some music out there.
But listen, check this out. One day, somebody got me this little hand AM FM radio thing, and I'm literally just like browsing, 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 and I hear this sound that's like doom, 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 and all I hear is um tiburón que buscas en la orilla, and I'm like, what is this? It's a heavy, 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 heavy song, and I'm gonna send you the link so you can actually reference it to what I mean.
Do it.
Then the song right after is Ivy Queen, La Queen, La que domina. Then I hear Lito y Polaco on the other end. Then I hear the Nelson and Alberto style, and I'm listening to all this different Don Chesina on the other end, and I'm like, what is this stuff? It's a sound from Puerto Rico called reggaeton, and I'm this, you know, couple thousand miles away in a country without even electricity, and I'm listening to this thing, and it captivated me. So I would tell you that the sound that captivated me first was my homegrown Dominican typical merengue. And the urban side, reggaeton definitely at a really early age, and I talk about this on like my stories. As crazy enough, years later, I end up working in the same camp or in the same kind of like team or for
Yeah.
some of these people. You know what I mean? So it's kind of amazing.
Bro, that is super amazing, man. And it's funny because music really is like that universal language. And I find that a lot of the people who I talk to that are established in music now, like as adults, it always kind of stems from like being a child and like kind of wanted to like be kind of being a kid at heart forever. You know what I mean?
You know what? You never stop being a kid. You just become a kid with responsibilities and things that you gotta do.
That's a fact, man. That's a fact. So nowadays, what is your style of DJing? What kind of music do you mostly play and all that?
So I went through a I would say stages where again me being Latino, I growing up in a Latin driven environment. I was doing a lot of salsa, merengue, bachata, reggaeton, and Eka is a very, you know, tropical DJ, so that was the vibe. Then as later on we started incorporating different things, it started broadening up. So for different phases of my career, I was specializing in different things. And for a long time, I was doing just like merengue. That was my thing. Then I was doing merengue y bachata. The salsa was a little tough when you're starting off at the beginning. But then when I got that in like, then I started getting into the more like, urban, and it kind of went on. So as of right now, man, I've been grateful enough that I've done some amazing collaborations with people. I mean, I could do Egyptian music. I could do like things that some of these people I don't know what they're saying. I'm just hoping that they're saying something good, but I do my
Right.
research and I figure out what's good, and then I just kind of like slid it.
Nice.
And I could do the same for pretty much country music. If you want to go, Afro beats, but I don't mean like the commercial thing. I'm talking about like that real underground. Like that kid just came out yesterday. How the hell you know about that kid? You know what I mean? Because
Nice.
it's the broadening of it and the experience have allowed me to get to that point.
Mhm.
But I would tell you that if you ask me right now, what's my preferred method? Um, I will prefer for myself. I will prefer to have a open format because it allows me to tap into it's like you're traveling and you're literally taking somebody on a trip. I can put you in Egypt right now and at the same time switch it up and bring you right back to a hood in the Dominican Republic because we're doing some, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, but in terms of, what the direction is, I would say that I will focus a little bit more. I would say that the electronic scene, it's it captivated me like a couple years
Yeah.
ago, man. I never went to a festival, and I went for the first time to EDC, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah. That's sick, man. Yeah, I can imagine too. Like, I mean, I know for a fact that Latin music and EDM or just electronic, they blend together so nicely, dog.
And you know what it was that did it? It wasn't the music because as a producer, like and open format DJ and engineer, I consume music that most people don't even listen to.
Right.
It was the feeling that I felt when I was in the middle of the crowd, just as an spectator, that I only get that feeling when I'm on stage performing for them. And I've never gotten that type of feeling in any other type of environment other than when I'm performing.
Yeah.
So the fact that I was able to experience that level there, I know that the other end gotta
Yeah.
be,
Gone.
yeah. So that was the idea. I sat down with Monica, which is my life partner, business partner. She's a marketing and branding genius. So we came up with this whole, we're gonna take it. And within 6 months, I was, doing a electronic music festival, like a 3-day fest type thing.
What?
But we ended up getting overly involved to the point where we ended up actually working with the organizers. Uh, I ended up literally working the thing, like helping out, you
What?
know what I mean?
It's
To the
crazy,
point where
man.
I ended up having to do a gig the day that I was supposed to be kind of like doing the whole headline. And man, that it was such a crazy situation to go from one end to the other until like next day type thing. And I didn't even get a chance to play at the time that I actually was supposed to, you know what I mean? But it worked out because it allowed me to see that, yo, and 6 months ago, I didn't know nothing about this. So if I was able to, give an idea to my partner, and within 6 months we were able to develop this level without having any type of nothing, it was just like, mm, that definitely put a pin, kind of like a chip. So, and in the since then, different projects came along. This is when we started working with Baby Wine, DJ Nelson's artist. Again, talk about things coming full circle. And we started moving a little bit on the music side of it. Then I got full blown. I started doing my DJ stuff. You started seeing me doing all these gigs around town. Tampa. I started doing that, and then life happened. And then yet again, we find ourselves having to make a decision that it questions you, because are you making a decision based on ego? Or are you making a decision based on what's right? And those are when you cross those things in the road, um, it can be daunting, especially when you've been doing this for so long. You know what I mean? Some people. I always tell those around me, and I think this was one of the first things that I told you was like, I will never give you an advice based on my success, but I will give you an advice based on my failures. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that moment that we decided to, hey, we already, bro, there hasn't been one thing that I have told my wife that I wanted to do that I haven't done. There
That's
hasn't
awesome.
been one thing that we haven't set our mind to that we have not accomplished, as far as maybe not in the way that we wanted to, but we experienced it. And then we're like, yeah, nah, this ain't it. Next. You know
Right,
what I
right.
mean?
Yeah.
But people confuse that with, why are you not there? Because first of all, I don't want to deal with those people. I want nothing to do with those people, and that's why I'm not there. And when you put that out to people that don't know, they'll be like, but you're not successful. In what scale? Because your level of success might be a little. I know people that have money that they don't know what to do with it, and they're successful, but they feel like failures, literally empty inside. So, there's ways to do both, and
Yeah.
it takes longer when you do it on your own. But that's what like you were saying, the hustle comes in. The hustle is great for a certain amount of time. You have to be doing the work while you hustle to be able to build a self-awareness to know when to switch from hustling to strategic. And right now, thank God, I'm in a place where I'm being strategic, bro. The hustle phase has already been there, and that's part of the DNA. That's never gonna go away.
That's right.
But when you hustle with a strategy, brother, that's when things change.
Changes the whole game, man.
Listen, a tsunami gotta pull back before it comes in for what it is, man.
I like that, man. That's bars right there.
Bars.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let me ask you this. Are there any up and coming artists or producers that you're like, yo, these people are really doing their thing, or you want to shout out because you see them working?
Absolutely, man. I mean, I would tell you that I can. There are a lot of talented people, and it will be unfair for me to just pinpoint and just say one person. First of all, because who the hell am I, right? Like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, if I say this person is good, then somebody feels like, well, but I'm good too. It's just my opinion, which has no weight on anybody's life. Your reality is yours. This is mine, right?
Right.
Um, I would say that from a younger generation perspective, the producer game, it's going to become more and more and more like the artist game. And although you might be known to certain people, there's going to be a whole plethora of people that have no idea who you are. I can name you some producers that you would never heard, but they got Grammys and all these things, you know what I mean, that
Facts.
are
Facts.
putting in the work and actually doing these camps, and they got they're in the hustle still,
Right.
and they still feel like they're not there yet. And I can name you people that wish that they can get to that point. So I would tell you that right now where I'm at, I like a producer from New York. His name is Jaciel. Not only because the dude is, you can understand when I say this. There are people who are talented and there are people who are tapped in.
Mm-hmm.
This dude is both. So from a producer perspective, in the younger generation type of him, um obviously, as far as the local producers from out here, um I can't even I can't even not mention my boy Cesar. You know what I mean? Like he is one of the illest to actually create. I don't even want to say that he's a producer, because he's a artist, producer, engineer, videographer, knows marketing. I mean, he had to learn, you know what
Wow.
I mean?
Yeah.
That was around the time that I met you, was when I started, working with him and helping him with his, development and sound and whatnot.
Nice.
So from a Lion side of it, those guys would definitely be the newer one. OGs, of course, my boy KO, bro. I mean, that dude is not normal. If you do not know who KO El Más Completo is, Google that name. I mean, he has an artist right now, which funny enough is one of the guys who wrote that. It's a really famous song that Pitbull ended up jumping on it with Lil Jon, called the Watakatapitus Berry. What? Watakatapitus Berry? God.
Okay.
So one of the artists from there, from the duo, he ended up, you know, getting more in the enlightenment side of it, getting more information, and now he's on the whole, putting music with actual life codes in there. You know what I mean? So you go from super street, blah blah blah, all the way up to very esoteric, like very like Kendrick Lamar meticulously type level of production.
Right.
That gentleman, the nastiest.
Wow.
And in the Dominican Republic, there's definitely um, a bunch of producers that are amazing. Jazz, is one of those guys that is super talented. He works with Rimas, and he's super talented. And even in Tampa, you guys have some fire ass producers out there as well, man. I mean, I can't even. I will cut myself off if I don't name one of my OGs, bro. Steady Styles, bro. This dude is,
Hey.
when it comes to sampling, chopping in that greediness, just raw. I'm sorry, bro.
Hey, big shout out to Steady Styles, man. Steady Styles does make some truly hot actual rap. Just what would you consider his specialized beats? Boom bap, is that the word, or is it just like hip hop? I say
Yeah,
both, probably.
I mean, I would tell you that most people would say that, they will put him on the, boom bop type of,
Yeah, boom bap.
category. But, Steady he's a sample dude, man. Like, he will
He's
chop
great.
up one of your samples and you will feel like you're listening to, DJ drama mixtapes from back in the days. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes, sir.
he'll go in and chop the crap out of some of this stuff, and you'll be like, whoa.
Yeah. Yo, that's a fact, man. Shout out Steady Styles. That's what's up, man. So turning a little bit here, talking about Knoise Knation. So what kind of inspired the inspired the founding of Knoise Knation, and what were you looking to fill in the marketplace with that with your company?
Um, so this company is my wives and I, and the idea. The idea of Noise Nation. So Noise and Nation, we put K's in front of it, so it kind of make it
That's dope.
different.
It looks cool.
But the K is silent,
Mm,
and and even though the name Tito Knoise, and we're going with the whole Noise Nation out of it, the original name that we had was Knights of Knoise,
that's cool too.
which was with Tony. Remember the house head that I told you, my boy that kind of got me into the whole house music. We started the whole process of a DJ association between me and him, and
Mm,
we used to be called Knights of Noise. And when I left, I was kind of like the situation. Then I got baptized with the whole Tito Knoise by artists that I was working back then. And when my wife and I decided that we were gonna come out of and do our own stuff when we were in Full Sail, that's where the name kind of like just kind of like stayed because it's a played on. I mean, the K is silent, so you can't really there is no, you don't pronounce it. And if you really know me, you know that I'm not a really a noisy person. You know what I mean?
all right.
So when the name gets in front of the face and you kind of compare it, you can see that it's kind of like it's a play on, bro, because the K is silent, and at one point you got to kill the noise.
Yeah, I like that, man. That's dope. Yeah, and it makes sense too, just because, man, being a crazy talented DJ and producer like yourself, you know what I'm saying? Like, you do bring the noise. And sometimes it is the most quiet people in person who, right when they hit that button, they control everything, bro. So,
And I'm not the most skilled, DJ out there, man. I got boys that are, oh man, they're phenomenal, bro. Like I see these guys, and I literally like will show up just so I can see them DJ. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um, I'm really good at one thing and one thing only, and that is to letting my energy talk.
Mm,
You know what I mean? And I'm very self-aware. And then you add to that 15 years of experience when it comes to crowd control and music knowledge and the production and the engineering and all the other elements. It kind of creates this like you know bubble. There's no secret sauce. You know what I mean? The secret sauce is just I don't play if I'm in a bad mood
mhm.
because going back to the feeling that I had when I was in a crowd versus being on stage, there is, and you can understand this when you're performing. When you're a performer, there is a intoxicating feeling that you get when you're up there, and most people, believe it or not, they get hooked on it, and they be doing some weird ditty stuff to be able to get on it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And that can be addictive. So that energy,
What else?
that
That's some Diddy stuff.
some weird ditty stuff. But that energy is what I personally feel that makes a difference for me
Yeah.
because there's people that will come up to me and be, man, you like, how do you do this? Like, how do you mix this weird Egyptian thing and then like how do you? And I'm like, I just listen to see what works. It's not the skill set. It's not the scratching. It's not that I'm the best blender. Now you put me at, I've been performing with, the Alex Sensations, the DLOs, the only person that I haven't really performed in the same stage has been so far was Adonis because Adonis is from my time.
Mm,
But so far, brother man, I've been so grateful that I am able to connect with the people that I'm supposed to. And those that don't connect with me, they don't like me, and I'm cool with
yeah.
that.
No, 100%, man. 100%. What's been, would you say, some of the biggest challenges with growing your company, and how do you feel like you were able to overcome those?
Thinking that I knew, that was the biggest challenge, thinking that I knew.
Okay.
Because when you're confident in this momentum and you surround yourself with people that you can see their potential and then you start running on potential, And by the way, I thank you for asking that question because that probably this is the first time that I'm going to say this, but my biggest mistake would probably be that running my company on potential because everybody has the potential. Everybody has a potential to go left or right, good, bad, or not so good. You know what I mean? I was banking and making business decisions on potential, and there's a phase to it. You know what I mean? But my entire company can be run into that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And I would say that that would probably be my biggest mistake. And the way that I fix it, man, is just you take those L's, you take those bad business partnerships that pretty much wipe you off and you have to start from scratch. And the worst part is when you think that you're doing something, all of a sudden things start changing and you do not know why because you know that you do things right. And all of a sudden you find out years later that people kind of backed away because of your business partner. And because you're so dope with them, they don't even want to mention anything because they don't want to mess up your situation. So they just back away. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
again, potential.
No, that's good, man. I think that's some really great advice. Because in entertainment and in this music industry, it is very easy to get caught up in potential when you could see it. But potential and numbers or money definitely can be different. First of all, and then second off, kind of like how you were saying, with the partnerships, I've been there, so I know exactly how that can be as well. And it's tough in the moment, but it definitely teaches you like what not to do in the future. So it ends up being a good thing. It ends up being a blessing, but man, getting screwed over sucks.
It is, and you probably unlocked the Pandora's box for happiness, which is you looked at every situation, no matter how crazy it is, and you're gonna deal with the craziness and the emotions and the whatever, whatever. But you know for a fact that even as you're going through it, it's gonna be all right. And this is just part of the journey. Now, how many times that's part of the journey? That's up to you.
Right. For sure. I like that.
But I wanna say that that's probably been one of the biggest factors that I would say allowed me to connect with you has always been the mindset that you've always put out that even though you said it at times and didn't believe it and you didn't believe it, but you said it so many times that one day your brain just believed it and then you exude it.
Right. That's a fact, man. That's a fact, bro. So now I do have a couple of just like leadership questions for you. So, maybe not necessarily on music, but you could take it in music as well. But what do you think makes a good leader?
Man, that's a complex but yet so simple, answer, right? Because a good leader is able to be self-aware of themselves and others.
For sure.
A great leader, they don't know that they're leaders. They're just built. They're put in situations that they don't want, that they despise, but God understands that that's the path, and they just have to become. And when they fight it, and they keep fighting it, and they keep fighting it because they don't want that, life keep putting opportunities in their laps, and they're like, no, that's too much responsibility, or I'm afraid as hell. I don't want people to see me as that. God will punish you because again, you're saying no to a gift of God. So a good leader is self-aware. A great leader doesn't ask to be one.
I like that, man. And it also kind of seems too, like from what you said, that another thing that makes a great leader is the courage. Courage to walk when it's dark. You know what I'm saying? And that is a big thing, and it's hard at times.
And it comes with, it's like loving l- l- the greatest feeling that you can ever experience, right? In like a chemical reaction is love, right?
Hmm.
But inequivocally, that is directly tied into fear. And, if you're too afraid, you will never experience love. I'm, I'm afraid of losing this amazing puppy that I'm gonna have for 10, 7 years. Well, guess what? Because of your fear, you will never experience what it is to be loved unconditionally by this animal. You know what I mean? And most people, walk on walk around their lives just in fear. Um, and I think that probably has to be the number one limiter for for the human race is fear. Just period, bro. If you take the fear away, this world will be very different. And I think that that's where inevitably I have faith that humanity will get to that point. And it's going to be ugly because in order for you to not be afraid, you're going to have to fight to some situations. And, those things are not cute.
Yeah.
But fear will probably be my
No, bro,
the
that
biggest
that
culprit.
that was some real stuff, man, and that's deep. And I'm sure we could even go way deeper into that, on another time because that just makes me it makes me just like, how do we overcome that fear as humans? You know what I'm saying? Like, it could get really meta up in this house, but we're gonna keep it moving just because our time is coming to an end. But on another day, we will get deeper into that.
Absolutely, man. And you already know that, you just so you know, man. Right now, I am plugged from everything. For the last couple of months, I don't know if you noticed, you don't see me anywhere. I thought about this. I was like, do I really want to do this? And
Mhm.
I looked at the phone and I'm like, yes, yes. Same thing, just quick, right?
Yeah.
It's for a reason. But if the answer would have been, I'm not, not from a fear perspective, but from a value perspective, like, no, I'm not that. And if anyone can take anything from this, this conversation, uh, don't even worry about who's here. You know what I mean? But
Right.
take this. Fear has been the fuel that has literally pushed me into experiencing different facets of life. The goal to experience life in a loving way, in a not so loving way, in a crazy way, in a not so crazy way. I mean, it's your life. Don't hurt others. Experience it, build something for yourself, and hopefully have a positive impact on the world because karma, oh yeah, that thing is never going away. So whatever, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. No, that's some real stuff right there, bro. I appreciate you sharing that. All right, so as we're kind of wrapping up here, the next questions I have are just kind of like some fun questions just for the audience to get to know a little bit more about you. So you may have even said this earlier, I don't 100% recall, but what was your first job ever?
I was working at a video game store when I was 15 off the books,
Oh, nice, man. I like it. Okay, cool.
like paid job. Before then, in the country, I was always like, cleaning and doing other stuff. So,
Right, right. No, that's tight, man. That's tight. If you could have dinner with any fictional character, who would it be?
I will definitely 100% will say Goku.
Oh, dog, that's a good one, man. That is a
I mean,
good
that
one,
is one
bro.
of the most kindest, but yet most savagest people. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes, sir, man. I love Dragon Ball Z, bro. I grew up on that, man. Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Heck yeah, dude. Do you have a go-to karaoke song?
Man, I'm a ad-lib type of guy. I
Okay.
remember all the way that my brain work. I'm weird. My brain will remember half of things, so I'll remember the end of it. And, you know what I mean?
Right, right.
But when I don't have like a karaoke, like you do not want to hear me sing, bro. Like that's not it,
But you're a good number two to get up there and hit those ad libs.
bro. I'll be the number one, number two.
I like that, dog. I like that. All right, so you win the lottery. What's the first thing you buy?
I wouldn't. I know. It's weird. It's how you know you're getting old. If I win the lottery, the first thing that I would do, first of all, is taxes,
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
then tax strategist, then right into a machine and not touch it, put it somewhere, and then borrow against it. So that way the interest is a lot less. I'm dropping gems, by the way. Take the money, put it in something that you can make money in, send it over, borrow against it, pay yourself, and the money will never go.
That's a fact, man. I like that. That's some gems. What is your favorite movie or TV show?
Favorite movie? Man, Pulp Fiction.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I love, like, when I was a kid, I was a TV head. Even though we didn't have much to do, we have one car battery and one black and white TV, and then got upgraded to color.
Nice.
So I was watching a lot of cartoons, like Zodiac Warriors, Dragon Ball Z, all this stuff. But as far as TV shows themselves, my right now, my most current favorite TV show is it's called From.
Ooh, I haven't heard of that one.
If you're not ready for the thing, don't even go there, because it will test your just everything.
Whoa. I'm gonna have to check that out, man. That's dope. All right. And as of right now, and I know you talked a little bit about this earlier, but who's your favorite artist or band currently that you're bopping when you're driving around and whatnot?
Currently, or like of all time.
Either way.
So I would say that of all time, just so you know, this is what probably the hardest question that you throw my way, because I'm one of those weirdos that I always say that I don't really have a favorite, so depending how I wake up.
Okay.
But I've always had an affinity for certain genre and certain people in genre. So like in merengue, it will be like um rest in peace, Rudy Perez, one of the guys that actually, got crushed in that situation in DR. That
Yeah. Sad.
from a urban perspective, man, my favorite artist, most people don't even know his name, man. His name is Sabueso del Patio. And funny enough, I haven't, really connected with him in a long, long time. Um, but just because of the creativity and the way that the guy just, he's not normal. You know
Wow.
what I mean?
Yeah.
That's from my school, like that, and to have an opportunity to see him in the creation process, then to be able to work with him and his producer, that was one of the guys that got me onto the inspired, into the urban scene. Yeah, man, like that guy is not normal.
That's
Like
epic, man.
it's crazy, brother.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. So as we're coming to a close here, do you have any projects or events coming up?
Events, no, not live, not like in a venue. Um, you know, when you step over that business threshold, and you know what your worth is, and people are not willing, not even pay, because it's not even about the pay. It's about respecting what you've been able to build. I decided to pull back from the club scene. A, because it's not the same. B, because people go out there and they're not really worry about actually having a good time. They worry about looking like they're having a good time, which, if you go back to my conversation, the reason why I do this is because I love the energy, that the way that it feels. But if you're not bringing any type of energy, I don't want your money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But um, I can't really go like into too much details, because obviously there's some things in play that if I say it too early, it can definitely like mess up some business.
Okay.
But let's just say this, there are a series of buttons that are going to start lighting up, and they're going to come up at the perfect time, because God doesn't miss. And
Hey.
when they do, my brother, you will be the first one to know, and we'll make some of the work. But just know that it's going to be something that people will enjoy. Forget about me. Forget about the music. Anybody can put mixes together. Anybody can go and produce. It's what we're building with what we're building.
I like
And
that.
that's the sauce. And you know that, when we put our effort, we always try to build something, sometimes a little bigger than our bucket, but
Hey man,
why not?
hey, you gotta shoot for the moon, bro. Then you miss, you hit the stars. You know how it goes. So that's what's up. I'm excited to see what that comes out to be. Any people that you want to thank or shout out? I know you kind of did a little bit of this earlier, but anybody else?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm gonna do this rather quickly. Everyone that I'm gonna mention here is because they've actually been a source of information, education, experience, good, bad, or the ugly. Um, I welcome it all. I have no, even people that quote unquote did me wrong, they actually did me right because they put me in the right path
Right.
without them even knowing.
Fact.
Um, but I would tell you that from Que Yo El Más Completo, of course, from, and I'm just going to give you all the
Mm-hmm.
producer side,
Yep. Yep.
and I'll save the best for last. Que Yo El Más Completo, Sabueso del Patio, someone that believed in us when, we were just starting. Cesar that allowed us to, work with him, Nolo that allowed us to, help him with a lot of the things and vice versa. The guys from Jack Nine Film, Jack, Carlos, Yaciel in New York, my brother Jose, that we're building an amazing community that has nothing to do with music, but he was the person that started the music with me.
Mm,
And years later, we reconnected on a different project, and it's going bonkers.
that's crazy.
So, and obviously today, super grateful for Baby Wine and Nelson and the team for allowing this craziness of Tito and Monica to do its thing,
Yeah.
and people like yourself, man. You actually, believe it or not, you were a tremendous part of the momentum of believing that I can do it. Bro, like these guys don't even know me and they actually want to work with me. Okay, cool. I could do it.
Yes,
You know what
sir.
I mean?
Yes,
So,
sir.
and of course, my boy JT that's in Tampa, you know what I mean? It's always solid. Actually, that's definitely one of the producers that should be mentioned at the beginning.
Nice.
But JT is one of those guys like that, Tony, that even if we don't talk every day, we talk, a year later and it's like we just picked up where we left off type thing.
Right. Right.
And, of course, mi mamá,
Oh yeah.
mi papá, because he put the seed, God, God, above all, man, God is
Yes.
is the reason and the source for everything that we do. And even though, I'm never a preachy person, that the core of everything that I do comes with the word of God, attached to it. And again, best for last, but my beautiful, smart wife, man, I mean, she has been just the the powder in the dynamite.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
She's the powder. I'm just a little stick. I just connect things, connect it with the heat, and then once that comes up, it's just explosive. So
Gone.
that those will be some, and overall, just anyone that at any point in time has either shared anything that I've done, provided my services or my what I do to other people and recommended me, or at one point or another helped me. Cannot forget DJ El Nino from Connecticut, Richie Rich. Those guys were tremendous. Choque Cultural was the first group that we started. So there's so many things, brother. Like it's
Yeah.
just so many people, you know what I mean?
For
So
sure.
and so far, just I'm just grateful to be able to experience all these different humans in this journey.
100%, man. And shout out to all of them. And last thing, Tito, where can people find you? Your website, social media. I'm still gonna link it all in the description, but just if you could say it as well.
Yeah, it's Tito Knoise, and some people say Tito Knoise, like a knife, the K is silent. So TitoKnoise everywhere. So
Yes,
if
sir.
there's any Tito anything else, It ain't it.
Hey, it ain't it. Well, Tito, I want to thank you so much again for coming on the podcast today. And to all of our viewers, I want to thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Hustle Coast podcast. It's been a great episode getting to know Tito Knoise. Make sure to click the link in the description. But other than that, we're out, guys. Won't you stay with me in paradise? Where the drinks are many and the party full. On the beach, girl, you're so beautiful. Homegrown in the land of the sunshine. Pure Florida boy running through my bloodline. Burning loud on the beach, time to unwind.